When it comes to this channel, I'm a few weeks ahead of the topics because I have to be. So while you guys are watching the death of the casual collector, in my brain, that's in my rear view. And even though I'm way past being a casual collector, I did still have some casual traits left in me. Traits that I found to be disappearing, which is why I made Death of the Casual Collector. But to be clear, whenever something dies, something else has to be reborn to take its place. And for me, that rebirth came in the form of 3D printing. And I'll get into why. But I think it's funny that for years, collecting meant buying, finding, and hunting, and basically just waiting for companies to release the next big thing. But somewhere along the way, and a lot more recently, I've really been asking myself, what if I could just build it instead of just waiting for some random company? Not just buying the next shelf piece, but actually having a hand in creating it. And that right there is when collecting started to get fun for me all over again. Stick around. 3D printing has really changed the way I see my collection. My thoughts used to be only about what it was that I had, and recently my thoughts have shifted more into what is it that I can make. I actually feel like every time I print something, I'm actually putting my own little fingerprint or my own little stamp on my hobby and my collection. Every riser or every display stand or every missing accessory, it's really up to me now. Instead of just waiting for companies to fix their quality control issues or decide what characters matter or what it is that somebody else thinks should come to the light, now it's on my time frame. I can literally fill in any gaps that I have right now. And that's powerful because when we start building our own collections, we stop being at the mercy of the bigger companies and their release schedules and their prices. It really does make me look at things different. And now I'm saying things to myself like, oh, I can just make this. Or I bet you I could buy that file, no problem. And to be clear, just to show you the difference in making things yourself, let me give you just one example before we go any further. That X-Men Blackbird jet has been circling all of our news feeds. We've all seen it. All of the X-Men fit inside at the same time. The top comes off. The plane is bigger than most of us are in real life. We on the same page? So I started looking into it and I asked myself, how much does homie want for this plane? I find his IG page and he's pricing it at $1,000. $1,000. Plus, he's a one-man band. So every time he does a Blackbird, it's going to take him 3 to 4 months to knock one out. And I'm over here in my crib like, nah. I like the Blackbird, but trust me, I'm not blowing a stack on a plane. But it did get my mind working because now I'm like, yo, there has to be another way. A little bit of research later, and I found the creator. Not the guy that's building the Blackbird. I'm talking about the guy that actually made the files. It really wasn't that hard at all. But between me and you, how much do you think he wants for the file for the Blackbird? You ready? The file for the Blackbird only cost $14. $14. 1 4 14. $14 for the file, or $1,000 to have it already made. You guys already know what I'm thinking. What's really wild is how small changes can transform the whole presence of our display. One printed platform can really make a difference in what it is that we already have going on. And what's even more wild is that creativity never asks for permission. All it really needs is a printer and a little bit of patience. A small riser can make those back row characters pop out. Coming with tiny little props or maybe even no weapons at all isn't even really a complaint anymore. Now, I can make weapons bigger and better than the ones that the characters come with. They don't have to be fancy neither, just different and accessible. For me, it was simple. I wanted a little more depth in my shelf and I wanted to bring them to life. Nameplates and logos really make things pop out and it made me feel like I was labeling every single part of my display. I feel like they really make the shelves pop out more too. And the more I created, the more I started to reconnect with the casual collector inside of me again. The side of me that just wanted to make things look cool. Because now, the hunt that I'm going through isn't for toys or for figures. Now, the hunt is for ideas. I had to take a few things down because I really want to highlight those things in my next video. But now, every time I walk into this room, it really does feel different. I kind of feel like it looks less like a collection room and it looks more like me. There's really something poetic about walking into a space that we built on our own, piece by piece, that really brings back that magic we all talk about missing. It's not about flexing what we picked up, and it really is about curating our story. And my 3D printing journey has shown me a way to illustrate and tell minds all over again. Also knowing that what I'm bringing to the table is in the minority, not really in the mainstream, really adds to the whole mystique of this too. Because at the end of the day, we're all getting the same figures, but at the same time, we're all trying to make them our own. And what better way to do that than to personalize your collection with things that you can't find in Walmart or in Target? Am I the only one printing? Not at all. But from what I can tell, a whole lot of people feel like 3D printing is really out of reach. A lot of people don't want to take the time to learn a new hobby, and they just want something dropped on their doorstep. And that's cool. We're all invested in this on different levels. But that right there is what makes me want to do this even more, because I love obscure and I love hard to come by. And no, this whole process hasn't been exactly fluid. I've had my hiccups. I've had to learn things and see what's going on for myself. How do I get files and what's the difference with all these filaments? All of that was super fun and part of the journey. My hobby is allowing me to learn the skill that I feel like a lot of other people wish that they had. And at no time did I ever feel like I was stuck in training. Like it was legit fun trying to get everything together, even just organizing prints and testing out files, playing with colors and watching ideas turn into plastic. All of that right there is therapeutic. All of that is art. All of it is a part of collecting. But now it's on my terms. I think that the biggest change that 3D printing brought to my collection was control. I'm not just reacting to the hobby anymore or waiting for some random stranger to make an announcement. And I don't feel like I'm stagnant in my collecting or like I've taken a back seat. If anything, it actually helps me to feel like I'm actually shaping my collection, and in a way that I never really thought possible. Now I'm thinking about things that I'm not seeing, and I'm thinking to myself, how can I make my collection even more unique? Now I want everything that I'm not seeing. And in a way, it's almost like I started collecting all over again. I've also noticed that 3D printing has me looking at some older figures that I've had for years, like they're brand new again. Like I just printed the Time Portal from X-Men 97, and this Time Portal has me looking at Bishop and Forge like they brand new figures. And I know they have a newer Bishop, and I have them, but that's not the one from the cartoon. That's not the one that I remember. This is the one that I remember, that long-haired Bishop. That was the one that was jumping in the Time Portal. That was the one that Nimrod was chasing down. The Forge from the cartoon is the one that I have too. And for years, I've been trying to make this character stand out. But not for nothing, he's always just been a supporting character, a supporting cast member on the X-Men. But that's not the case anymore. Now, Forge and Bishop are going to be front and center in his own display. And he's probably going to steal the show. Forge and Bishop stealing the show. I would have never thought that was possible. And let me tell you, those two right here have been rocking the top shelf for years. But now, it's like they got a whole different energy to them. Even though they're not the latest release, it doesn't matter. The newer figures would never fit in the same way. Those figures are not what I remember. So now I'm over here in my room, dusting off old figures that I thought I was completely done with. And that is something special, because how many times have we talked about us buying figures just to go home and not even open them, or just to go home and throw them in the closet for a couple of months? And those are brand new figures that we're talking about. They haven't been touched yet. I think that right there within itself is an accomplishment, because in this hobby, we all know that figures getting a second chance at life, it just doesn't happen like that. I drill down all the time about not collecting what's next just because. And 3D printing has helped to not only remind me about that, but also to show me that collecting isn't only about buying, but it can only be about creating whatever it is that I don't have. And maybe that right there is the real future of collecting. Not the death of the casual collector, but the rebirth of the creative one. And just really quick, before I start getting comments about how expensive or prohibitive 3D printing is, I haven't really found it to be that. I look at it like this. I don't have a Galactus, and I don't have a Sentinel. But if you find yourself having $200 for a HasLab Giant Man, then you can definitely afford a 3D printer. If you can afford to invest into Hasbro or whatever your company of choice is, then you can definitely afford to invest in yourself. You just have to want to. So yeah, I guess this is what's next for me. Less waiting on companies and more creating in my spare time. Because at the end of the day, we don't just collect plastic, we collect possibility. And 3D printing has given that back to me. Until next time. Peace.